Hands up. Why are you driving this car?
Driving? Officer, this is my car. What is the problem?
You fit the description of a suspect driving a car matching this make and color.
Profiling. I am a professional. I was just leaving school.
Don't reach. Keep your hands where I can see.
Officer Marcus Reynolds had been with the Atlanta Police Department for 18 years. In those 18 years, he'd accumulated 37 formal complaints. 32 of them involved black women he'd pulled over without legitimate traffic violations in affluent areas of the city. A black businesswoman in a Lexus was stopped for suspicious driving. A black nurse in a BMW was detained for improper lane change that dashcam footage later disproved. A black attorney driving to court was searched for drugs during a routine stop with no violation. A black professor in a Mercedes was handcuffed for matching a description that was never verified. A black social worker was arrested for resisting when she asked for the reason for the stop. A black accountant driving home was detained for erratic driving when she was going the speed limit. A black real estate agent in an Audi was pulled over for suspicious vehicle operation with no articulated violation. Every complaint ended the same way: internal affairs review that cleared him, use of force justification that protected him, bias training he attended but dismissed, union grievances that blocked discipline, written warnings that accumulated in a file nobody acted on, and a pattern that screamed of both racial and gender bias. One Thursday afternoon in Atlanta, his 18-year pattern of pretextual stops targeting black women in expensive cars finally confronted someone who didn't just know the law, someone who spent every day shaping young minds, who was beloved by hundreds of students and their families, who was driving home from teaching a lesson on civil rights, and whose arrest would spark national outrage that would force accountability. That confrontation would end Reynolds' career, cost the city $19 million in the largest traffic stop settlement in U.S. history, and expose a department that had ignored 37 complaints over 18 years. Alicia Thompson, a 44-year-old high school history teacher and department chair, was driving through Buckhead after teaching her advanced placement U.S. history class when she saw flashing lights behind her. Her teacher ID was in her purse, her lesson plans on the passenger seat, her Teacher of the Year plaque visible on her dashboard. No traffic violation, no erratic driving, no legitimate reason for the stop. Just a teacher driving home after inspiring students to fight for justice. But Officer Reynolds saw her through a lens so warped by racial assumptions and gender bias that he couldn't process a black woman in a nice car as anything other than suspicious. Certainly not as an educator who just taught her students about their constitutional rights. And definitely not as someone whose arrest would become a defining moment in the fight against racial profiling. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Hit that subscribe button. These stories need to be told. Atlanta, Georgia. Buckhead, one of the city's wealthiest. Neighborhoods with luxury shopping, high-rise condominiums, and upscale restaurants. The area was known for expensive cars, wealthy residents, and heavy police presence. It was 4:15 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, temperature 71 degrees, sunny skies. Traffic was building as the afternoon progressed. Parents were heading to pick up children. Professionals were beginning to leave offices. Alicia Thompson had been a high school history teacher for 22 years, currently the department chair and lead AP US history teacher at Martin Luther King Jr. High School, one of Atlanta's most respected public schools. She'd graduated from Spelman College with honors, then earned her master's in education from Emory University. She'd spent her entire career teaching in Atlanta public schools, inspiring thousands of students, many of whom had gone on to college and successful careers. She'd won Teacher of the Year 3 times. She'd been featured in education journals for her innovative teaching methods. She'd mentored dozens of new teachers. She made $78,000 annually, not wealthy, but comfortable. She drove a 5-year-old Honda Accord she'd purchased used. That afternoon, she'd taught her AP class a lesson on the civil rights movement, specifically about the Fourth Amendment and citizens' rights during police encounters. The irony of what was about to happen would not be lost on her or her students. That afternoon, Alicia had stayed late helping students prepare for their AP exam, then left school at 4 p.m. She was driving home through Buckhead, a route she took daily, obeying all the traffic laws, listening to NPR, thinking about tomorrow's lesson plan on voting rights. She checked her speed, 32 in a 35 mph zone. She'd signaled every turn. She'd stopped completely at stop signs. Then she saw the flashing lights behind her. Do you think officers should state violations immediately during traffic stops? Drop your answer below. Officer Marcus Reynolds had those 37 complaints over 18 years. 32 involved black women in nice cars in wealthy neighborhoods, a pattern so extreme and undeniable that multiple supervisors had recommended his termination. Women's organizations had filed formal complaints with the mayor. The NAACP had specifically named him in protests, community leaders had demanded his removal, and internal affairs had flagged him as a severe liability. But the police union had successfully blocked every disciplinary action, arguing that Reynolds was proactive in traffic enforcement and that the complaints were politically motivated. His personnel file was thick with identical complaints describing his pattern of pulling over black women without cause. One internal affairs report from 3 years ago specifically stated, "Officer Reynolds demonstrates a clear pattern of racial and gender bias in traffic stops. He disproportionately targets black women driving in affluent areas without legitimate traffic violations. His conduct violates department policy and constitutional rights. Recommend immediate termination." The recommendation was blocked by union arbitration. He remained on patrol because the system valued union solidarity over constitutional rights and public safety. That afternoon, Reynolds was patrolling Buckhead when he saw a black woman driving a Honda Accord. No traffic violation occurred, but Reynolds followed her for 6 blocks, looking for any reason to justify a stop. When none materialized, he pulled her over anyway, planning to claim suspicious driving behavior in his report, a tactic he'd used successfully dozens of times before. Alicia pulled over carefully, put her car in park, turned off the engine, placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, and took a deep breath. She'd just taught her students about this exact scenario. Know your rights, stay calm, document everything. She kept her hands visible and waited. Reynolds approached the driver's window with aggressive body language, his hand already resting near his weapon. "Ma'am, pull over immediately." Alicia spoke calmly and clearly. "Officer, I have pulled over. Can you tell me why you're stopping me?" "License and registration. Don't ask questions." Alicia's teacher training kicked in. "Stay calm, be clear, stand up for your rights." "Officer, I have a right to know the reason for the stop. I'm asking respectfully. What traffic violation did I commit? I was traveling under the speed limit. I signaled all turns. I stopped at all stop signs." Reynolds' hand moved closer to his weapon. "Step out of the vehicle right now." "I'd like to know the legal basis for this stop first. What is the specific violation?" "You're under arrest for failure to comply." Alicia remained absolutely calm, knowing her students might hear about this. "Officer, I'm Alicia Thompson. I'm a high school history teacher at Martin Luther King Jr. High School. I'm the department chair. I just finished teaching my students about the Fourth Amendment and citizens' rights during police encounters. I was teaching them about this exact situation. You need reasonable suspicion of a violation to conduct a traffic stop. What is your reasonable suspicion?" Reynolds sneered. "You think you're a lawyer now? Everyone's a lawyer when they get pulled over." "I'm not a lawyer. I'm a teacher. I teach constitutional law to AP students. I know my rights, and I'm asking for the legal basis of this stop. Last warning, out of the vehicle or I'm pulling you out." Alicia pulled out her phone with one hand while keeping the other on the wheel. "I'm recording this interaction for my safety and for documentation. Officer Reynolds, badge number unknown, has pulled me over without stating a traffic violation. I've identified myself as a high school teacher. I'm asking for the legal basis of this stop. Should teachers be arrested for knowing their rights? Let me know what you think." Reynolds opened the door forcefully. "You're under arrest for obstruction, resisting arrest, and failure to comply." "I haven't resisted anything. I'm sitting in my car asking questions, which is my constitutional right. You're recording me. That's obstruction. Recording police in public is protected by the First Amendment. I teach this to my students. You're violating my rights." Reynolds grabbed Alicia's arm and pulled her out of the vehicle roughly. Alicia didn't resist physically, but spoke clearly for her recording and for passing motorists. "I am not resisting. I am complying under protest. I am Alicia Thompson, high school history teacher and department chair at Martin Luther King Jr. High School. Officer Reynolds is arresting me for asking why I was pulled over. I committed no traffic violation. I was teaching my students about the Fourth Amendment 2 hours ago. Now I'm experiencing exactly what I taught them about, racial profiling and unlawful detention. I have video evidence. The time is 4:23 p.m. Motorists were slowing down, some pulling over to record. "That's wrong," one shouted. "She's a teacher." another yelled, recognizing her from the community. Reynolds handcuffed Alicia, the metal tight on her wrists. Wrists that had written thousands of lesson plans, that had graded countless essays, that had held the hands of students who were struggling, that had applauded at hundreds of graduations. He walked her toward his patrol car while Alicia continued documenting in her clear teacher's voice. I am a 22-year educator. I teach at MLK High School. I was driving home from teaching a lesson on civil rights. I committed no traffic violation. Officer Reynolds pulled me over without cause and is now arresting me for exercising my constitutional rights. The same rights I teach my students about. I have witnesses. This is being recorded. My students will hear about this. Their teacher was arrested for knowing her rights. More motorists were stopping now, several recording. A parent of one of her students recognized her and immediately started calling the school and other parents. The parent was recording and narrating. That's Ms. Thompson. She teaches my daughter. She's the best teacher at MLK. This is wrong. Reynolds placed Alicia in the back of his patrol car. Through the window, Alicia could see her Honda with the door open, her lesson plans visible on the seat. Tomorrow's lesson on voting rights discrimination. Her Teacher of the Year plaque was still on the dashboard. She'd spent the day teaching students to stand up for their rights. Now she was in handcuffs for doing exactly that. The lesson had just become real in the worst possible way. The drive to the station took 28 minutes through Atlanta traffic. Alicia spent every minute thinking about her students, how they'd hear about this, what lesson it would teach them, how she'd turn this into a teaching moment about systemic injustice. They arrived at Atlanta PD's Zone 2, headquarters. Reynolds walked her inside, still handcuffed, past a desk sergeant who looked up with concern at seeing a professional woman in teacher's attire. Reynolds, what's the situation? Traffic stop, obstruction, and resisting arrest. The sergeant frowned immediately. What was the initial traffic violation? Suspicious driving pattern. Suspicious how? What specific law did she violate? Reynolds hesitated. She was driving erratically. Alicia spoke up, her teacher's voice cutting through with authority. Sergeant, I'm Alicia Thompson, high school history teacher and department chair at Martin Luther King Junior High School. I was driving home from school when Officer Reynolds pulled me over without stating a traffic violation. I asked, politely and respectfully, for the reason for the stop, which is my constitutional right. He ordered me out of the car. I asked again for the legal basis of the stop. He arrested me for obstruction. I have video of the entire encounter on my phone. I was traveling 32 in a 35 mph zone. I signaled all turns. I committed no traffic violation. I'm a teacher who was teaching about Fourth Amendment rights 2 hours ago. Now I'm experiencing a Fourth Amendment violation. The sergeant's expression changed immediately. You're a teacher? At MLK High School? 22 years. Department chair. 3-time Teacher of the Year. I teach AP US History. I just taught my students about their rights during police encounters. Now I've been arrested for exercising those rights. The sergeant looked at Reynolds with growing alarm. Did you have a traffic violation? She was driving suspiciously. That's not a traffic violation. Did she break any law? She started recording me. That's obstruction. Recording police is constitutionally protected. She's a history teacher who would know that. Within minutes, the station was in crisis mode. The school principal had been called and was on the way. Parents were calling. Teachers were calling. Students were posting on social media. Their beloved teacher had been arrested. The local NAACP was calling. News stations were calling. The story was spreading. Award-winning teacher arrested after teaching class on constitutional rights. A deputy chief arrived, Sandra Williams, a 28-year veteran who'd been fighting to remove Reynolds for years. She listened to the situation, reviewed Alicia's video from her phone showing the entire stop, spoke with witnesses who'd recorded it, confirmed there was no traffic violation on dashcam. She approached Alicia, still handcuffed. Ms. Thompson, this arrest was completely unjustified. You're being released immediately with our profound apologies. She turned to Reynolds with barely controlled rage. You pulled over a teacher with no traffic violation. You arrested her for asking why she was stopped. You violated her constitutional rights, the same rights she teaches students. Badge and weapon. You're suspended immediately pending termination in federal charges. Reynolds protested. Deputy Chief, she was being difficult. She was exercising her rights. She's a history teacher who knows the law. You pulled her over with no violation. You've generated 37 complaints in 18 years, 32 involving black women. You're done. Badge, weapon, now. By that evening, the story had exploded nationally. Every major news outlet covered it. Teacher arrested hours after teaching class on civil rights. MLK high school students organized a protest. Teachers across the country expressed solidarity. Education organizations issued statements. Video went viral showing Alicia calmly citing the Fourth Amendment while being arrested. The hashtag #, Justice for Teacher Thompson, trended for days. Civil rights organizations mobilized. The story resonated powerfully. A teacher arrested for knowing and teaching the rights she was arrested for exercising. Alicia held a press conference surrounded by her students, colleagues, and community leaders. I'm a history teacher. For 22 years, I've taught students about the Constitution, about their rights, about fighting injustice. Yesterday, I taught my AP class about the Fourth Amendment and citizens' rights during police encounters. 2 hours later, I was pulled over without cause and arrested for asking why. Officer Reynolds violated my rights, the same rights I just taught my students about. The lesson became real. My students watched their teacher be arrested for doing what their teacher taught them to do: know your rights and stand up for justice. Alicia filed a comprehensive federal lawsuit 10 months later against Officer Marcus Reynolds, his supervisors who'd ignored 37 complaints, Atlanta PD, and the city. The allegations were unprecedented: unlawful traffic stop without reasonable suspicion, false arrest for exercising First Amendment rights, recording, false arrest for exercising Fourth Amendment rights, asking for basis of stop, false imprisonment, violation of Fourth and First Amendment rights, racial profiling and discrimination, gender-based discrimination, retaliation for exercising constitutional rights, intentional infliction of emotional distress, damage to professional reputation as an educator, deliberate indifference to Reynolds' pattern of violations targeting Black women, violation of her right to teach and her students' right to learn. Her arrest undermined her lessons about constitutional rights, interference with educational duties, punitive damages for egregious conduct. The complaint included Reynolds' complete record: 37 complaints over 18 years, 32 involving Black women, multiple termination recommendations blocked by unions. Atlanta's city attorneys found the case indefensible and politically catastrophic. Dashcam showed no traffic violation. Alicia's video showed her calmly citing constitutional law. Witnesses supported her. She was a beloved teacher arrested for teaching and exercising rights. The optics were devastating. An award-winning educator arrested hours after teaching about the Fourth Amendment. The pattern showed deliberate indifference. Students, parents, and teachers were demanding justice. National attention was focused on the case. The city settled 24 months later, $19 million paid to Alicia Thompson, the largest traffic stop settlement in U.S. history, reflecting the egregious nature of arresting an educator for exercising the rights she taught. Officer Marcus Reynolds was terminated immediately. He faced federal charges for deprivation of rights under color of law. He pleaded guilty and received 54 months in federal prison. His name entered the National Decertification Index. Alicia testified before Congress about racial profiling and the importance of knowing constitutional rights. I'm a teacher. I teach students about their rights so they can protect themselves from exactly what happened to me. I was arrested for exercising the rights I teach, but that arrest became the most powerful lesson I ever taught. My students saw their teacher stand up for justice. They saw the system fail, and they saw the fight for accountability. That's the lesson. Know your rights, use your voice, demand justice. Atlanta PD implemented sweeping reforms under federal consent decree. The case became required teaching in law schools and police academies nationwide. Reynolds is in federal prison. The city paid $19 million, but that came after 37 complaints in 18 years. Comment if teachers should have special federal protection. And if these stories matter, hit that subscribe button. This isn't about one officer or one teacher. It's about systems that ignore patterns and educators who teach us to fight back.